To all you grandmas out there, happy Mother's Day. Grandmothers, grandmas, hello y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, today is Mother's Day, and I just did my video on being a mom and on my mother. And I thought, you know what? I want to do a separate video on grandmothers, grandmas. You know, I grew up with an incredible grandma. I was so very, very fortunate. Grandma's porch out here is in honor of my grandma. You know, my grandma was a real grandma. She looked like a grandma. She had a rocking chair. She had her Bible. She stayed home. She only went to church. And everybody congregated at her little house out by the railroad tracks, out in the country, in a little there was like a little tiny town. And when I say tiny town, it wasn't a real town, but it had maybe a handful or a little bit more than a handful of little houses. And so it was kind of a small part of an extension of a small town, a small bigger town. And it was out in the country. And so she had the train tracks actually it was in front of her house, but we considered the back of her house because the way we entered actually through the back of the house because there was really no front entrance because it went down onto the railroad tracks. And so the railroad, the train would come by and we would wave at the conductor and the caboose man back when they had a caboose. And there was a swimming hole a little ways away, a real swimming hole. And, you know, I grew up at grandma's and there was always food there. It was simple foods, but always food on the table. And grandma, we just went down there, and that's kind of where everyone congregated. She had 3 little rooms, an outhouse, well water, no real indoor plumbing. She heated her house with a fireplace. She and grandpa heated their house with a fireplace or a coal stove in the kitchen. And that's how they lived their life. And they loved it. That was how they loved it. I loved grandma's well water. It had a particular taste to it that was so amazing, and I miss that so much. Wish I could have some of that wonderful, wonderful water. And so anyhow, grandma taught me the Bible. And grandma had her, you know, her set beliefs, and she taught me those. And I believe that those beliefs carried me through challenging and difficult times, times of living in LA, and all that went on in LA. I stayed straight and steady. I stayed on the straight and narrow road. And I'm so grateful for grandma's teaching. I used to go to the payphone when we were too poor to have a telephone growing up, and I would go to the payphone with my little dime, and that was back when you could talk unlimited amount for a dime, and it was down by a truck stop. I was like 6 years old. And I would go to the payphone and I'd talk to grandma every day, every single day on the phone. And my mom, she would always talk to grandma. I think she talked to my grandma always at night. And that was sort of my lullaby to fall to bed. That was when we got a telephone finally. And so my mom talked to my grandma always. And when my grandma passed on well into her 90s and my mom was in her 70s, my mom felt like an orphan, even in her 70s. My grandma was the rock. She was the solid one in our families. All of the relatives congregated in her little house on the holidays and on Sundays and often during the week. And the house was small, it was tiny, and it was a very simple house, and her life was very simple. And she was very generic based in her thinking. And I loved that. She had a lot of good horse sense, good common sense wisdom. And that's what I try to promote today. When we sit out here on my front porch, or my back porch, or my front porch too out front, but when we sit out here and we talk, we're just talking down home common sense that grandma taught me. And so many of the things that I talk about or my views on life are shaped by my grandma. And I just loved her. I loved being around grandma. And I so miss her. She would be about 120 years old now if she was still alive. And I think, wow, where did the time go? Where did the time go? She made the best fried chicken ever, ever. I don't know how she made it, but it was so simple and so good. The best chili. And she just was amazing, amazing. And so this video was dedicated to my grandmother, whereas my other video was dedicated to my mother and to being a mom and to moms. You know, I've been very blessed to have an amazing mother and an amazing grandmother. And I am so grateful, so grateful. So here's a shout out to all you grandmas out there. May God bless you. Happy Mother's Day. From my house to yours, may God bless you. And I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.